So I'm running a homebrew game with some of my friends in a homebrew world, and they stumbled across an Infinity Stone, a gem that in my world is the source of all necrotic magic. Wow, what an original name and concept. I wonder where you got it from. But despite what the guardians of this gem told them, the rogue decided to touch it and took a couple d20s of necrotic damage. He was level 2. He instantly died. Rogue, what you are standing in front of is an artifact of extreme danger. With one touch, the poison on its spines could instantly kill you. How do you want to proceed? I want to touch it. Dude, I just told you that it's ultra dangerous and poisoned, and you don't want to touch it? Seems safe enough. How does it seem safe? I just said... Yeah, I don't see what the big deal... Oh no, the object was covered in spines. How could I have foreseen this? The spines had poison on them, and now I'm poisoned, and I'm dying. How could this have been prevented? Thankfully, I had someone revive him, turning him into a reborn. Thank goodness for Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft. He was fine with it and is very excited to draw his character now, but that gave me a temporary panic attack because I had an arc planned for everyone. His took the longest, but I made it work. Plus, I got to give him a hint for things to come. Okay, thanks for taking time to read this, and again, hope you had an amazing vacation and happy late birthday. Thank you, by the way. This kind of gives me new DM vibes. I don't know for certain. The Infinity Stone and the D20s of damage make me think this might be a new Dungeon Master, but that shows that even when you're new, you can come up with good solutions to small problems like this. A sudden player character death is no joke, and I'm glad this worked out. Don't get used to it, because we're about to see a bunch of things not work out, so great. Coming off the lockdowns, I was asked by my oldest friends to join their D&D group. There were 3, with one being the Dungeon Master, and had taken to the habit of doubling up on characters, and were wanting a change. The setting was Ravnica, and I was initially greatly impressed with my DM friends' prep and back-end work, and willingness to work with my convoluted ideas, as my character was a spy of the Demir Guild. The typical dude pretending to be a dude, pretending to be another dude, and we kept it from the other players at the table successfully for almost a full year. The problem started to crop up a few sessions in when it seemed like the good-natured discussions of past shenanigans seemed to get the GM a bit irritated or off on their game. Epic tales of how the two used potions of giant strength to grapple Strahd into the sun, or use silence to cut holes through walls? Okay, guys, I'm lost on this one. Huh? Silverhand Alpha, this is Silverhand Beta. Ready to breach the door. Copy, Silverhand. I'm also ready to breach the door. Alright, breaching in 5, 4... Wait! I actually have something I think that could help with the breaching part. Oh, thank God, dude. My shoulder's been giving out since the last time we did this. If you have another way to get through this thing, I would really appreciate it. Silence! Wait, no! Great, this idiot cast silence. Now I can't talk. I can't even yell at him now, because silence. Great, how are we even supposed to breach this wall? Was this supposed to do anything? I mean, seriously, what a freaking idiot. What did he just... They also use light to make a stalking object more noticeable. You know, the usual boasts of cleverness. The DM seem to take these situations as personal slights against their DMing abilities, and after that, the encounters began to get a bit more hostile. We could never develop allies or garner favors, no matter our renown or fame. Conversations always ended in combat, and combat seemed to become adversarial too, where every question about the state of the battlefield became a weapon to deny the use of abilities or tactics instead of collaboration with the DM. I don't know who started it, but this is where the leading question begins. Try and get the DM to trip up on description or status so we can actually use our abilities. On top of that, the DM seemed to struggle with developing counter situations that challenged the group, especially with how magic items were used to interact with the environment. There weren't exactly a lot of those options, but when there was, we had a glaive that could cut through most materials, so all buildings, doors, hinges, windows, etc. became some super material we could not cut through, completely ruining the fun of the item. Why would you give that to your players? Do you want your game to turn into Minecraft? No, not that Minecraft! Our barbarian had a belt that healed 50% of all healing they received to 2 characters within 30 feet of them. Yeah, he was nigh unkillable with the wizard using life transfer freely. But at level 15, my character had a +1 weapon, so yeah, there were pretty huge peaks and valleys. We tried to work with them to balance the items and come up with encounters, especially after we went up against an epic T-Rex we were looking forward to, and just reverse gravitied it for an instant kill, as they had not planned any counter to the spell our wizard had been using for months and months. No other creatures in the lair to disrupt the concentration, no ranged abilities, nothing. It was just kind of disappointing. Hey guys, remember the Brontosaurus nuke? Well, meet Send Your T-Rex into Orbit! Everything came to a head about a year after the campaign started when we were fighting a named Gorgon creature who had a special aura within 30 feet that would require a save or turn to stone if you looked at him. We had killed 2 sisters of this Gorgon previously, and somehow, despite having been exposed to its stone gaze effect 2 times before, we could not argue that our characters would just not look at it while attacking. And the final nail in the coffin being 2 of us turned to stone, and our wizard going in for the kill. The Gorgon was on death's door, but stopping 30 feet out to avoid the gaze, where the DM says in the most disappointed voice, "Fine, if you really want to metagame." As if we had never fought these things before, and as if the wizard wouldn't attack from range regardless. My wizard friend took a few seconds as we sat in almost stunned silence at this statement's ridiculousness before they moved their character 1 square forward into the gaze effect and rolled in silence, failing and effectively TPKing the group. After that, the DM asked if we wanted to make new characters and maybe save some old ones, but we were all deflated, and I could tell my wizard friend was mad, so we muttered some non-committal words and ended the session, and effectively the campaign. All's well that ends... not as bad as it could have. Sorry. All's well that ends well, though, as I've known these guys for over 20 years now, and no one has any hard feelings over it, just some playful ribbing and cautionary tales, and inspired me to DM. Being on the other side of the screen has allowed me to empathize a lot more with my first DM, and that first experience taught me a lot. I'm going into my 2nd year of DMing, and I've had the best group of players, and I'm lucky that includes 2 fellow players from my first campaign, along with 5 others that I run multiple games for a week. Yeah, this is another victim of good old amateur game balance. I have been getting into magic item design because I have a sneaking suspicion I'm going to need to design a lot of items for the new RPG Draw Steel, and so I've been getting ready for that. And yeah, it's hard, especially with a game that you're not really fully familiar with. You need to be ready to rebalance items. And a lot of the time, players can sometimes be resistant to that. I mean, come on, no one likes nerfs. I play Helldivers 2 for crying out loud. I'm intimately familiar that no one likes nerfs. But sometimes they are necessary. However, here, these players recognized the items were overpowered, and they were willing to help the DM. I mean, that is a godsend, but it doesn't really seem like the DM was taking advantage of that, and was more bitter about them having any sort of wins at all, which is silly. The point is for your players to win. I get frustrated when my players win too easily, but I want them to win in the end. This DM, they just had their priorities backwards. It's so frustrating that every time I want to game, we're playing the same old, same old. I love my group. As a DM, I'm getting tired of being left out playing. If only there was a game that let me play alongside my players against a common foe. Thank God for OneLastFight. This video is sponsored by OneLastFight. You might not be aware of this, but I love a good roguelike. And this one is a great roguelike. It's a card-based role-playing game where 1 to 4 players journey to defeat their final nemesis, or die trying. Just like any tabletop game, you create your backstories together, you create your own nemesis together, and you work together to overcome a gauntlet of challenges and epic moments until your big boss fight. The developers behind this one are Hit Point Press, and if you guys know this channel, you know I like Hit Point Press. They got some great books like The Islands of Sina Una. They also work with Pointy Hat a lot. They are good at what they do, and they're at their best with this game. OneLastFight gives me everything I want out of a tabletop game. It's got plenty of crunchy combat, but also lots of storytelling opportunities that allows everyone at the table to participate in a truly epic series of battles. If you guys are interested in Hit Point Press's One Last Fight, then you could head down into the description down below or to the pinned comment so you can begin your adventure against your nemesis. Thank you so much to Hit Point Press for sponsoring today's video. As always, supporting our sponsors does support us. And without further ado, I'm going to turn back into an animated rat so we can get back to the video. Hi Crispy, I've been watching your horror story videos literally every night the last month or two. I own my own small business and love putting your voice on in the background while I work. As a person whose voice was their biggest insecurity for a long time, that like boggles my mind. Thank you though. I figured it was about time I submitted my own horror story. Around 2018 or 2019, I had a massive urge to play a TTRPG for my birthday, but couldn't find a DM. I'd run a single one-shot for the official World of Warcraft overlay of 3.5 years before, but wait, that was a thing? That time when World of Warcraft was adapted as a tabletop Dungeons & Dragons RPG. Seriously? Yeah, Nordic Brayton. Same, bro! Now, as with most birthday celebrations, you always invite a few extra people because so few end up showing up. I did warn in my invite that I'd like to make this game once a month thing, giving myself more time between sessions as to not feel super pressured since I was semi-new to DMing. I get a session 0 set up at a local tabletop game bar. I don't know if that's a local thing or not, but it was co-owned by a friend and was a 2-level bar that had a wall of board games and often held TTRPG game nights as well. I decided to run a changeling-only game in World of Darkness. It's my favorite tabletop system of all time, and honestly, super newbie friendly, seeing as a few people I invited had played little to no tabletop games before. Birthday party comes up, and a shocking 10 players show up. Okay, sure, yeah, that was way more than I expected, but it's cool, I got this, right? Anyway, we spend the night making characters, and I help everyone who's new, and we get everything set up pretty easily. First few sessions after this go well enough that we could find a local game shop to move the game to, where we could pay $20 to rent a private room for the entire day and get unlimited fountain drinks. Dang, who are these holy altruists running this deal? My god. Now our problem player here we will call Weiss. Weiss? I don't care. Since this was early Ruby days, and that's who they based their character after. Now, I'm a very story-heavy person. This was not only warned to everyone before even session 0, but this person and I had been close for years outside of game, so they knew this more than anyone else there, really. Despite this, however, they made their character very cold. Like, hood always up, they would always have their earbuds in, and would never participate with the group, and oppose the group doing, well, basically anything. Literally how they made her. I even asked them about it once, and got the whole, that's just how my character is excuse. However, I'm new DMing and I'm having fun so far, so I'm just trying to push past this. So far, things go well enough for the first 6 to 8 months, which, mind you, is only about 6 to 7 sessions since 1 or 2 had to be skipped, and we were only meeting once a month. Then, I started noticing Weiss, well, they started bringing their DS to sessions and would literally be sitting there playing Fire Emblem while we were gaming. Now, don't get me wrong, I adore Fire Emblem, but like, mid-session, dude? What? When called out, they complained that it had been a while before anything got to them anyway, so it doesn't matter. Basically complaining about the number of people. This kind of hurt my feelings, not gonna lie, because I was trying so hard to handle all these players, and I felt like, I was doing a pretty good job. Well, until then at least. Everyone else seemed to be having a good enough time, though. Now, at session 0, I told everyone they got 1 free remake if they decided to change anything about their character, if they weren't feeling it or whatever. After the freebie, though, if they want another remake, my rule was they had to kill the character they've gone with in some glorious way, with pre-discussion on how, of course, but basically letting me use a soon-to-be missing character for my own story purposes. Everyone liked the idea and agreed, and I often reminded them that it was an option. Honestly, I was excited to get to do it. You know, you sound like a quality service provider.
Man, I really want to get rid of my player character, but I just don't know how to do it in an awesome, memorable, gruesome, and cruel and terrible way that will make the children scream. What am I going to do? Hi, I'm a guy, and I was the head of Villain & Sons, but we went out of business. So now, I introduce Executions Incorporated. With us, we can guarantee you a swift, epic, and appropriately brutal death for the player character that you no longer love. Thanks, Executions Incorporated. I used to have no idea what to do with my player character. Now, I'm being publicly executed in front of hundreds of people. And shut up, peasant! Time to die!
Method and pain level of death not up to the consumer. Executions Incorporated will usually try something cheap. It's a good service, pinky promise, and if it's not, you're dead. Insurance rates apply. See website for details.
Weiss finally decides their boy wants to make a new character. They'd already rolled their Session 0 character and used the freebie reroll to make this current character, so I excitedly remind them what this means. They pout a bit about it, but we talk it through and come up with this really epic death about being eaten by a giant hedgehworm. That's an epic... You want to die like these idiots? I mean, to each their own. Yeah, well, anyway, after Shai Hulud eats the guy, that kicks the party into gear, and they have to flee the hedge ASAP before they get eaten too. It was meant to be a total secret for shock factor, so no one but the two of us even knew a new character was getting made at all. It's agreed that the next session would be this character's last, and the session after, they'd bring out their new Medusa-themed girl. We get halfway through the session, where the group is talking to the NPC that's giving them all the info they need to take their secret path through the hedge, complete with all the warnings and such, and everyone seems to be getting geared up and getting excited. All of a sudden, Weiss takes her hood off, pops an earbud out, and is like, "The hedge? Nope, I'm out," and literally, in character, just decides to leave. I'm flabbergasted because that takes all the oomph out of the session. I already had a section that was made for another specific character, whose player decided 2 hours before the game to go to an IRL concert instead, and now this. I tried to get my NPC to keep her there, but she refused, and I wasn't about to be that DM and metagame to get them in there. I mean, to be fair, if she's metagaming to get out of Shai Hulud death, that's on her, man! So, session went on with clearly quite a few plot holes I literally wasn't able to fill no matter how hard I tried, and Weiss was on their DS IRL in the corner and basically sulking the whole time over their choice to not participate. But I was made to feel like that bad guy at a major pivotal session that was honestly ruined. The next session ran into pandemic shutdown, and the game kind of fizzled out from there. People moved, they had kids, etc. And so, I know it's never coming back at all, but to be fair, that fact almost makes that final session just hurt that much more. Yeah, there's a big reason why people don't like it when campaigns fizzle out, but in the end, I mean, sometimes there's nothing you can do about it. Yeah, I don't like what Weiss pulled here. If you guys agree to a moment like this, you can't just metagame your way out of it. It's silly. The DM puts effort into trying to make your character's end feel really good, and you agree to the elements of that end, but during the session you force the DM to pull a bunch of crap out of their bum? Yeah, that sucks for the DM. You're conscientiously making a decision to screw over their prep. The planned death route was a house rule that was established, that was agreed on. I mean, everything was set up, but this player pulled a last-minute stunt that I would not be okay with either. I also don't think it's possible for me to focus on D&D if somebody is visibly playing video games in the corner while I'm playing. It just takes me completely out of the vibe. Like, I've worked so hard to make this game interesting for you. The least you could do is try to pretend to care, but Weiss just couldn't even do that, and that means she's not worth having at your table. So this happened a few years ago. I had recently moved to my current town, and I was starting to make new friends. At the time, me and said new friends were really curious to try TTRPGs. Well, we're in luck, because one of my new friends knows some people who are really into tabletop, and they're willing to initiate our little group. We have a first session with a guy we'll call DM Aaron. He's not the problem. We run a Call Cthulhu one-shot, and it goes pretty well. We're having interesting investigations, we're fighting some weird eldritch being we found in a creepy basement. Overall, pretty great. Gets us excited for more. A different guy offers to DM another one-shot. This time, it's about vampires. It might have been Vampire the Masquerade, but he just called it Vampire, which means it was Vampire the Masquerade. Ain't no one saying that many
Vampire
syllables.
the Masquerade. It's already. It's too many. That's too many already. Too many.
I'm less excited because vampires aren't really my jam, but I'm still curious and I want to try something new. So this DM, that we'll call DM Bobby, sends our group mail asking what we'd like to see from the game and any icks and boundaries we might have. I'm pretty happy he took the initiative to do that. I didn't know about Session Zeros at the time. And I tell him I don't want any romance. I'm aromantic and romance repulsed. Or any sexual themes. Others chime in. Another person says they'd rather not have romantic/sexual themes in the game, though they seem more lenient than I am. It all seems very safe and welcoming. Wait, seems? What do you mean by seems? What do you mean by seems? What do you mean? Since we're all newbies, and this is a one-shot, DM Bobby offers to make characters for us, and we agree. He teases stuff about the characters and explains the setting. This game would be set right before a series of protests and political unrest in the country where I live in the 60s, and I think, ooh, neat. I wonder how he'll integrate that into the game. That could be cool. Okay, place your bets. Why does DM add this turmoil? Was it A, an excuse to be racist, B, an excuse to be sexist, C, an excuse to be homophobic, or D, none of the above, it's just not relevant? And then, on the evening before we're set to play, he sends us our completed character sheets. And that's where things turn for the nasty. So my character is a 17-year-old girl who is quote-unquote dating a middle-aged guy who is supposed to be another player's character, and her whole description has a very condescending vibe. Like, oh, she thinks she's a rebel, but she's just a stupid, naive, rich girl, and completely glosses over the fact that she's being taken advantage of. Now, as you recall, DM Bobby asked us for our boundaries. Now, I didn't specifically say diddling of the kidlings, at the time at least, you know, because I thought that, that would be a given, perhaps naively. Well, apparently not, though I'm not sure if he would have cared anyway since he gleefully ignored the no romance boundary. The next day comes, and I'm still reeling from this, but thankfully, the player who got saddled with my character's, romantic partner lives next to me, and we plan to go to DM Bobby's house together. I don't remember who broke the subject, but the conversation essentially went, so, this is weird, right? Oh god, yeah, that's super weird. Unsurprisingly, she wasn't thrilled about having to roleplay a diddler. So we decided, hey, since we're going to Bobby's house earlier than the others, we can have a calm, private discussion with him to try and explain that this whole thing is extremely uncomfortable. So we do so. We go to the house, we sit him down, we do our best to explain our issues. To my growing frustration and horror, he doesn't quite seem to grasp the idea that having to roleplay a diddler and his victim does not sound like a good time and makes us uncomfortable, but he does relent and changes my friend's character, giving her a brand new one, and my character stays mercifully single and free from child endangerment. Ugh, fellow men out there, don't you hate it when those overly sensitive women take away your abusive relationship roleplay king? Ugh. Except he doesn't scrap the character. This diddler is now the DMPC. He got turned into a vampire. We spent the entire 3-hour session trying to kill him. He just steamrolls all of us, turning us all into vampires despite our best efforts to defend ourselves. After we told DM Bobby in no uncertain terms this character is making us all very uncomfortable, he just made him torment us for the entire session. And even when we finally got rid of him, he hinted that he actually wasn't dead. Also, I took a peek at his stat sheet after the game, and he was really buffed compared to our characters, even though he was supposed to be like a normal guy. I mean, normal vampire guy. I mean, they have super strength and powers over the night. They also are weak to garlic, can't enter a house without asking nicely, can't take a shower because of running water, and spontaneously combust. Why would people want to be a vampire? Oh, and add to that the fact he did some one-on-one roleplay at some points with, according to my friend, some very uncomfortable, intimate descriptions of the vampire turning process, and didn't use the political background he set up for anything other than as an excuse to add extra misogyny into the game. Alright, who gets the prize? Congratulations. Yeah, extra misogyny, because it was like that at the time, and you get a completely just nightmarish session in general. It ended up splitting the friend group. As we brought our concern to the person who introduced us to him, she just didn't take us seriously, and we didn't want to see her if DM Bobby was around, and he was around a lot. Sadly, there is no happy ending to this. I did try tabletop role-playing games again with another group of people, but quickly stopped attending because one of the guy was a very bigoted, edgy person with that kind of sense of humor who made a joke about the, what can I even say on YouTube? Yeah, anyway, it was so vile, I was almost brought to tears. So yeah, maybe one day, if I have the opportunity to play with a group composed of people I know and trust, I'll give it another go. But right now, I'm happy just hearing the wild stories people have about TTRPGs. Oh boy. Look, it doesn't take much to ruin a hobby for you. I stopped doing a lot of raids in video games like Destiny or World of Warcraft just because of a handful of bad experiences. And yeah, I want to get back into raiding one day, but I'm honestly just not in a rush. Sometimes people are jerks, and the fact that I can play D&D with YouTubers or best friends that I know and trust, that is what makes D&D and tabletop role-playing games more attractive to me. Also, the fact that Bobby was getting defended just puts more of a bad taste in your mouth. And in case it's not obvious, yeah, this guy's freaking gross. It doesn't take much from a gross person to ruin a hobby for someone early on. I mean, why would someone engage in a hobby that takes up a lot of hours per week, that requires a lot of group coordination, if someone is being this much of a creep? It's just not worth it, man. When you see people like this, call it out, because if you don't, it might ruin the game for someone who really wants to play. Hey, that's a wrap. If you guys enjoyed, then you might enjoy our latest episode of Q and Play. We had a lot of fun playing Astrobot in that one, and we got some good questions. It's linked in the cards, but before you go, please do leave a like on this one and subscribe to Crispy's Tavern so you don't miss any of our content as it comes out. And finally, if you want to leave your own stories or thoughts, go down in the comments down below. If you can't think of a comment, leave the comment Vampire DMPC to let me know you made it to the end of the video. Hey, by the way, if you have your own horror stories, you can send them directly to us. There's an email down in the description down below. Send your stories our way for a chance to be featured in one of these videos. But hey, even if you don't have any stories, and that's not like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you all next time. Farewell.